Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's press briefing being held by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport and its partners. I'm Donna Bush. As always, we're very glad that you could join us here today on our various CIG channels as well as on Radio Cayman. Now, today's press briefing will provide you with details on the relaunch of the national airlines flights, our route to Panama. We'd like to welcome our panelists, starting with the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister for Tourism and Transport, Mr. Fabian Werns, the President and CEO of Cayman Airways Ltd, and Mr. Chris Bergstrom, the Deputy Chairman of the Cayman Airways Board. Also with us in studio are members of the media and senior civil servants, as well as Cayman Airways officials. We'd like to kick off first by going to the Minister for Tourism and Transport.
Thank you, Donna, and good morning to everyone joining us at home, on social media, and here in the studios for this press conference. I've called this conference today alongside our tourism partners from Cayman Airways to make a very important announcement, which I think most of us may have a good idea by now, regarding the expansion of our air services. I'm delighted to confirm that Cayman Airways will resume its operations and its non-stop service between Grand Cayman and Panama City starting on Monday, the 26th of June. This is the second major launch between Grand Cayman and the major international gateway in just 6 months. It was only just in July of last year that we were all gathered here to announce the launch of the Los Angeles route. And I'm here today, and I'm very pleased to bring you the country yet more exciting news about this new route to Panama. Noting that this is a resumption of service, I would like to say a few words on why we made the decision to move forward with this expansion into the Latin American market at this time. Last year, I set the Department of Tourism a target to bring 40% of the 2019 air arrivals to our shores. I'm very pleased to confirm that the Department of Tourism has surpassed that target, as well as their stretch goal target by an impressive 11%, meaning that we ended the year with 84,000 more people than we targeted. Although stayover arrivals are trending upwards, our tourism industry continues to be in a phase of recovery, and it will take some time for our stayover arrivals visitations to return to the pre-pandemic levels. Notwithstanding, for 2023, I've set the target of 70% of the 2019 visitor numbers, which equates to approximately 351,000 visitors. I'm hopeful that the new Grand Cayman to Panama City route will be a significant contributor to that achievement of that goal. If the pandemic has taught us one thing, is that we need to do more to attract visitation from secondary markets to supplement our tourism industry, resilience, and visitation from the United States. As well as our research and our marketing data providing significant justification for relaunching this route from a tourism perspective, we believe the service to Panama will provide the Cayman Islands with many other benefits. For example, the free trade zone in Colon, which is located less than 50 miles from Panama City, is the largest free port in the Americas. It is dedicated to re-exporting a wide variety of goods and merchandise from Panama to Latin America and the Caribbean. There are more than 3,000 established companies in the zone, representing an attractive option for travelers from a trade and business perspective. 2, there are several Caymanian companies which conduct business through Panama. Having the convenient option for transporting products could lead to the reduction in cost of living for many Caymanians and would allow Cayman Airways to benefit from the sale of seats and cargo. This strategic move, both from a tourism and business perspective. 3, based on our statistics provided from the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, in 2022, our islands received a total of 6,498 visitors from the Latin American market. This amounted to just 2,500 people less than in 2019, which saw 8,947 people visiting for the market in that year. With the direct service available to travelers, we're anticipating seeing more positive growth from this region. The relaunching of the Panama service, along with the recent introduction of the LAX route, fulfills my ministry's objectives to expand into new markets and grow visitation outside of the Cayman Islands' typical source markets. This move also showcases our work towards fulfilling our broad outcomes number 10 of the government's strategic policy statement, which seeks to 1. Expand into emerging markets and secondary tourism markets. 2. To market to high net worth visitors. And 3. To expand Cayman Airways routes. The Panama City route fulfills those objectives and will serve as a gateway from the surrounding Latin American markets such as Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia, making it easier for travelers from those regions to access our beautiful country. Our announcement today represents another significant accomplishment in the partnership between the Ministry, Department of Tourism, and Cayman Airways. I would like to acknowledge everyone involved in their efforts to bring this route back into effect, particularly, though, the management and the staff at Cayman Airways, who have worked extremely hard to have this service up and running in a relatively short time. Given the significance of tourism to our economy, we are fortunate to have Cayman Airways as a national airline and tourism partner. I offer my sincere thanks to them and all their dedication to these islands in respect to the tourism product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Bryan. We're now going to go to the CEO and President of Cayman Airways Ltd, Mr. Fabian Worms.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to give a little bit of information to supplement the Minister's good introduction as to why we're going to Panama. But the information I'd like to give has to do with what our schedule and flight times will be. We will be operating to Panama on a twice weekly service. It will be on Mondays and Thursdays. We're timing our flights to arrive in Panama round about midday, spend an hour and 30 minutes on the ground, and then come back to Cayman. What this does is it puts us right in that sweet spot for connections. So this means connections inbound to Cayman that would take place in Panama, and connections for passengers leaving Cayman going elsewhere, connecting in Panama. So the timing of the flight on any given day is very strategically done to create these connections. So serving Panama is not just about serving Panama. The Cayman Airport is one of the best hubs in the world when it comes to connectivity and in-transit travel. When I say in transit, this particular airport is actually designed that if your bags are already checked all the way through and you have a boarding pass, you do not have to land in Panama from an immigration perspective. You can simply walk from one gate to the other gate and board your flight. We are partnering with Copa Airlines. Copa is the Panamanian national airline, and Cayman Airport is their hub. Copa itself is a significant part of the United Airlines network, and their connectivity throughout Latin and Central and South America, Latin America in general, is phenomenal. So we have been speaking with them for some time. We had a relationship with them before when we were in Panama, and it's just a matter of resuming that relationship. So I think the residents of the Cayman Island, as well as new visitors to the Cayman Islands, can look forward to this now brilliant hub to connect. And it goes beyond just Latin America, even Europe, almost every corner of the globe. Panama serves as a really, really, really good hub. We're in the process now of reducing some of our frequencies to some of what we may consider our core gateways. One such gateway is Havana. We're not pulling out of Havana, but we're reducing our frequencies. And what this is doing is it's giving us the extra capacity that, or available capacity that we can use towards a flight like Panama. So the ministry's interest and the Department of Tourism's interest in Panama at this time was actually quite timely. We were very happy to dust off the business case that we had done in 2011 before we commenced service in 2012. We operated to Panama before seasonally during the summer seasons between 2012 and 2015. All of those flights covered what we called our variable costs, which meant they made a contribution to our fixed costs or our overheads. So those flights were not loss-making flights. So we're not going into this venture with anything like thinking about a potential loss operating the route on our minds. We're very confident that it will cover its costs again. The reason why we discontinued Panama in 2015 was because at that time we also launched our Dallas service. And Dallas was a service that was a very strategic tourism service. And we needed to ensure that with the old fleet that we had, the 737-300 aircraft, we needed to ensure that we had the reliability and redundancy within our fleet in order to make Dallas succeed. So something had to give within our schedule. And we worked closely with the government at that time to decide what part of our schedule, strategic or core, would be reduced so that we could continue with our efforts now as a lever of economic growth, driving tourism in the Cayman Islands. What was more important? And at that time, Dallas came out ahead. Our Dallas route was successful. It's subsequently now being served by other carriers. And as we always do, as Cayman Airways always does, we are always the first to start a route and do our best to make the route viable. And once it becomes viable, then it becomes attractive at times to other carriers. And when they come in, if it's not feasible for us to coexist, then we repeat the process. We look for another new route in order to help drive tourism within the Cayman Islands. There are some other benefits to Panama when we speak about tourism, because it's not just the typical leisure tourist. Cayman is a very developing country when it comes to the issue of offering health services. So health tourism is something that is quite significant, and it's growing more and more all the time. So we do know that we do get a lot of tourism here now in the form of health tourism from Latin and Central America. So we expect now that with this service, we're actually creating an environment that will allow that sector of our tourism product to grow even more, because Cayman now becomes more accessible to provide these services. So all in all, I think based on the times that we've chosen and the days of week, it's going to be Mondays and Thursdays, and we intend to now operate it year-round in this instance. There may be a reduction in service when it comes to what we call our shoulder or slow periods, but that reduction might be from 2 frequencies to 1. But that at this point is not a given. That is a contingency, in that if the demand is there to support the 2 flights, we will continue with the 2 flights. So I think that about sums up a clear picture of why Cayman Airways is happy to engage in doing the route, and what our projections are in terms of whether or not the route will succeed. And I think we could maybe have our deputy chair add a few more words on behalf of Cayman Airways.
Mr. Bergstrom, do you have something to say, or you want to wait for
Sure.
a question and answer?
Thank you very much, CEO, and to the Minister for allowing this platform to launch the Panama route and share with our viewers the exciting news. The board is really tasked by the ministry and by the government to take care of the projected outlook for where the airline is going to go. And it's very important to this board and my fellow board members that we are able to work hand in hand with the management and with the minister and his team in the ministry to all have a common goal and pull together. As the minister mentioned, this is part of our growth plan for the airline. It is very timely, as the CEO has said, so we're very excited to launch this service. The great thing about having new equipment, it provides us with a high level of reliability, but it also provides us with a much bigger area of opportunity in which we can operate. So I look forward to many exciting things to come from the airline, and Panama is just one step in that path.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bergstrom, and again to Minister Brian and Mr. Worms. We're now going to open the floor for questions from members of the media, beginning with Mr. Ralph Lewis from the Caymanian Times.
Thank you, Donna, and good morning, gentlemen. It's been a very good opportunity to come here again. Happy New Year to you, and we look forward to many more press briefings.
Mr. Lewis, if I could interrupt you for one quick second. I'm so sorry. I just don't want the listening public to run away if they got all the details. There's two more very important announcements. I was planning to take the questions at the end. If you want to do the questions now all together and come back for another round of questions, would you rather do everything one time?
Yes.
That may sound good. So Donna, I'm going to go into the other two announcements now. Again, thank you so much, Donna, for your assistance in that respect. I would like now to update the public on the actions of the government is taking in being proactive to address the capacity issue at our cargo port. A strategic outline case, or SOC, concerning the expansion of the Cayman Islands cargo port has been accepted by Cabinet, and approval has been granted to proceed with the development of an outline business case for this project. These two comprehensive documents, the outline case and the business case, serve different purposes and are required under the procurement law. The strategic outline case establishes the options for government's consideration. The outline business case is completed by financial experts and taking things a step further by examining each of the options in more details, including their cost. This is ultimately what helps government to determine which of the scenarios are feasible and or affordable or worth pursuing. By way of background for the public's understanding, I should note that our cargo port serves as a main port of entry for at least 95% of all ports to the Cayman Islands. And hopefully with the route to Panama, that number can go down a little bit because we'll be getting some cargo imports with Cayman Airways. During the day, it is used for cruise operations, and it transitions into cargo operations at night between the hours of 6 p.m. and 5 a.m. The strategic outline case has outlined that the capacity to bring goods through the port are currently stretched. And the reality is, within 10 years, we will also be nearing the capacity of the vehicles that are currently being called here. Taken together, this means that the port will not be able to handle the level of cargo required to support our growing economy and population. In addition, the cargo vessels that are currently coming here are getting older and are reaching the end of their expected lifespans. As they transition out of service, they're being replaced with larger vessels. The new cargo ships are also much wider and require larger cranes that are able to reach across the ship. The boom of the cranes that are currently used are not built structurally to be able to lift containers across a wider span of the ship. Moreover, the bigger the ships with more capacity require a deeper draft. When fully loaded, their draft will exceed the depth of the water at the port, meaning that the ships will not be able to fully berth at the current pier that we have. These issues are not new. The concerns regarding capacity at the port has been known for some time and were highlighted by the previous administration during discussions on the cruise berthing facility. Even though the country has decided not to move forward with the cruise facility, we still have the pending capacity problems with the cargo port that will become more acute over time. By starting this process now, the government is proactively attempting to gather all of the necessary information so that informed decisions can be made to resolve this pending problem. As I've said, the main purpose of the strategic outline case has been to identify the options for moving forward and calls for us to either expand the existing port facility in Georgetown or to establish a port at an alternate location on the island. As several options have been included in the report as possible locations for consideration. Given that this process is a major undertaking by the Port Authority intends to recruit a project manager to oversee the business case process, which will be carried out by independent financial experts. The intention is to follow a similar framework as the airport redevelopment project. The Port Authority has started the process and will have more updates in the coming weeks. Once the project manager is recruited, the next steps in the process will be to do a RFP, which is a request for proposal to be issued, seeking the financial consultants to draft the outline business case. As is customary, the strategic outline case will be included when the project goes out for tender. In addition, once the consultants have been identified to draft the outline business case, a public consultation process will also take place at that time. In keeping with the government's focus on transparency, I am requesting that the strategic outline case report is uploaded to the Ministry of Tourism and the Port Authority websites this week for the public to review. Moving on now to the other announcement and my final update for the public today, I would like to address the situation regarding the reigning Miss Cayman Islands universe. On Thursday, the 9th of February, following the conviction of Miss Tiffany Connolly, the Ministry of Tourism issued the statement which read, and I quote, "The Ministry of Tourism and Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee are aware of the summary court ruling in a criminal case pertaining to our reigning Miss Cayman Universe, Miss Tiffany Connolly. The committee, along with the franchise, in consultation with Miss Universe organization, will explore the available options pursuant to inter alia, the contract between Miss Connolly and the committee and the franchise," unquote. The first question arising from that statement would be, why has the ministry waited until now to explore those options? The answer is, from a legal perspective, we're obligated to wait on the decision of the court in this case. What has been recognized as a result of this situation concerning Ms. Connolly is that the ministry, under the franchise agreement, has very limited authority to make decisions independently of the Miss Universe organization. As the minister with responsibility who inherited this franchise when I took office, this is something that is very concerning for me. Additionally, there are a number of changes taking place within the Miss Universe organization, and we currently do not know whether the franchise holder will be obligated to accept these new rules or whether they will be optional. I have been advised by the Miss Universe organization that they have been contacted and asked to provide some more clarity on what the new rules would be and how they would potentially have an effect on our contestants moving forward, and I await their response. In light of those concerns and uncertainty, I'm seriously considering whether the ministry, acting on behalf of the Cayman Islands government, should continue with the franchise. It may be that the country may be served better or get the same benefits if a private individual or private sector company held a franchise, similar to what is currently happening with the Miss World franchise. I intend to review the franchise with my colleagues in caucus and in cabinet so that we are in agreement on the way forward. And I will, of course, update the media and the public at that time. There is no question that this has been a very difficult situation for all concerned, especially the Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee. They are all volunteers who have dedicated a great deal of their time and effort to empowering young ladies to achieve their goals and aspirations through the pageant process. I recognize that this has not been an easy time for them, and I want to thank them personally for all the service and dedication they have given to the young ladies over the years. It is my understanding that that now that the court proceedings have reached this stage, the committee now has the authority and have agreed to relieve Ms. Connolly of the crown. I further understand that the committee has taken action in this regard, and Ms. Connolly has been notified of this decision. I wish her well and her best. I wish her the best in her future endeavors. As a result, Ms. Chloe Powery Doxey will formally be crowned and will carry out those duties for the remainder of this term. And we also wish her well in her new role as Miss Cayman Islands Universe. I will now open up the floor for questions from the media in respect to the three topics that we have discussed this morning.
Thank you, Minister. In the interest of time, I'll stick with the first topic, which is the Panama route, the new Panama route. On behalf of one of our colleagues, Wendy, who couldn't make it here today, she asked me to ask this question, and she would like to know what is different to the Panama route now that we'll make it work when it failed 10 years ago.
If I may, I think that the CEO did a very good job in summarizing what's different now today than before, but I'm just going to add on to that. Some of the major emerging markets that have shown itself in our recent data and research is Colombia and Argentina has now been seen to be some of the fastest growing target audience that we want in respect to their spend. And obviously the easiest way to get to them rather than flying to Colombia and Argentina directly is, as the CEO has highlighted, having partnerships with major airlines like Copa to share that arrangement. The types of target audience we have usually have U.S. visas anyway, but rather than going up and coming back down, we think this will be a little bit more convenient for them. The CEO also highlighted the opportunities from a cargo perspective, and in light with the high cost of living, as the government is trying to do everything it can to reduce that, I think if we give businesses the opportunity to import goods at a cheaper price, they can pass on those savings. And you also heard the CEO speak about the fact that it was a matter of choice, deciding which one was the best one at that time between Dallas, a tourism strategic route, and Panama. With our new fleet, and thanks to the CEO and the board before and the previous minister, with our now amazing new fleet of jets, we have the luxury of being able to say we're not going to have any concerns of redundancy, so therefore we can go ahead with this route with surety, and the data shows that it will not be a loss route. So if it's not a loss, I think it would definitely be a benefit from the perspective of cost reductions to our people, as well as whatever percentage we get from the Latin American markets and those co-sharing agreements. I think that the Department of Tourism will be focusing heavily within the American markets, as well as you heard the CEO talk about other European markets that fly into Panama from the west coast of the Americas. So the opportunities are totally different than it was in 2014 was when we decided to move away from that, which was some 9 years ago. So the totally different circumstances, totally different set of data and reasoning and logic and equipment that we have here that makes it all justified. And I'm very proud of the board and the management of CEO to working together to fulfill this broad outcomes within the government's policy statement.
Thank you for an elaborate explanation.
I'd just like to add one thing to that. The equipment being the 737-8, which of course is a larger aircraft, the cargo carrying capacity is 50% more than the equipment we used to have. So that obviously means we also have 50% more capacity to carry cargo now than we did then. So that cargo piece of the pie, which is very important because a seat may go empty, but if there is 200 pounds of cargo in the belly, then the revenue to the airline could roughly be equivalent to the same as having a seat empty. So we have that extra capacity as well. So that ties in with what the minister said about the drive for cargo. And remember, the call-on free zone is, of course, a trader's haven. So we're really looking to capitalize on the cargo element of the service.
Okay, I have two more questions for you, sir. Are there any other routes besides Havana that will be affected by this new route? And
No.
do you have an airfare at this point?
Yes. Did I give the start date?
Yes,
I-
it's,
Okay, all right, good.
June 20th.
Right. The airfare will normally be in the region of 260 US, and that is without the taxes. The taxes adds another 130 on top of that. So you're looking at a total price of less than 400 US. As we launch the service, the public can expect that we may have some introductory pricing, which may be a little bit more attractive than that fare. But those are the fares that, the sort of fares that we have filed.
Yes. And are there any other schedules that will be affected once you start this one? Such as,
We're in the process of making a variety of changes to our schedule, all of which are minor. This will fit in very nicely with what we have done, and it's not a significant or drastic change.
okay.
It's more a matter of changes, the times of day when various things happen, not any massive reduction in any type of service.
Okay. My final question is back for the minister. Do you have an idea of how many residents travel to Panama from Cayman, whether it's via Miami or via other destinations?
Actually, I don't have that data, but I suspect it will increase tremendously based on the response I've heard from the public when we first announced the possibility of going to Panama. I've even gotten a letter from Chamber of Commerce suggesting that they are in support of this route because of the business opportunities within trade. And just your general public, we have a strong Latin American group of Caymanians who go to Panama quite often and the other surrounding areas that will make it easier for them rather than traveling through Jamaica or Trinidad. So I think my gut tells me and the data shows me that I think this is going to be successful more than it was in 2014.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Donna.
Okay. We're now going to take questions from Norma from the Compass.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I've got a few questions on all three topics that you covered this morning. First of all, you mentioned that the route to Panama would expand the market for Argentina, I think Brazil and Colombia, which brings me to the question, Colombia needs a visa. If you're coming from Colombia, you need a tourist visa to get here, as you do from many other Latin American and South American countries. Is there any plans in Cayman to relax the visa requirement for tourists from Latin America?
I would love to, but it's not my decision to do so. That's a national security issue. I've expressed my hope that the minister and the governor's office can explore that option. I know that much of the concern around that region over the years, but I think that with the technology and background checks that airlines do now before people travel is so efficient that the visa requirement for those jurisdictions may not be as necessary as they once were, therefore relieving the pressure and gives us an opportunity to increase the visitation from those markets. So I have expressed that to the Minister, the Honorable Deputy Premier, who's in charge of Customs and Border Control, and also from a security perspective, the Governor's Office, so that they are aware that that's my want and my wish. I leave that to those who have that authority. But even outside of that, I believe that particularly the target market that we are focusing on, they are usually of high net worth and usually have no problems having a U.S. visa anyway. And also the other component is that a lot of countries west of the Americas can also use the route of Panama to get to Cayman, just like how the Asian American markets can use, Oceania markets can use LAX to get to Cayman. So this is just another route of convenience. At the same time, hopefully getting a large enough percentage of persons from those two jurisdictions and others. So Argentina and Colombia is only two, but there's many very successful Latin American markets that have persons of good wealth and who would love the Caribbean. So we have to examine that, and hopefully I can have some more success to make it even more profitable in the future.
Okay, so talks are underway with the other
Yes.
departments to make this a
Correct.
possibility. Okay. You mentioned the LAX route. Do you have any kind of update at the moment on the numbers for there?
I heard it's doing really, really, really good.
Well, at this point in time, we are going through a bit of a slow period, but so are many of our routes. The airline business is very seasonal, so this is normal. And what I will say is LAX right now is performing just as well as New York is. So we're quite happy with that. On the premise of forward bookings, which are bookings that have already been made for future travel, we're very happy with the level of bookings that we have with LA. So at this point, we're quite comfortable with how LA is performing. We're not disappointed in any way. I think it's living up to be exactly what we predicted it to be.
Do you have any numbers that you can actually share with us, a sort of seat percentage that's been taken up in future bookings?
In terms of like a percentage load factor, we have been operating basically between the very high peaks and some of the troughs. We're averaging above 60% load factor.
At the moment, or
Yes.
for future?
Going forward, going into the summer, we're looking at a much higher load factor. We're probably thinking about above 70% load factor.
I think it is a very important factor to consider here, which is where the 60% is, which I understand is at most of the front of the plane, which is the first class, business class, are the ones that go out for sale first and are first to get sold off, which gives a different ratio of profitability. So you may have, if you had 60% just in the back, it's totally different than 60% of the front and some of the regular seats. So the good news is that many of the passengers that are booking are filling up the business class seats first.
Just to add to what the minister is saying, even on flights where the load factor may be 60%, the 16 business class seats, generally they're always sold. And we're commanding quite a good premium from the LAX market because it is that type of market that desires that type of service. So that's a very good point that the minister made there. So if you were to look, you can't just look at it in terms of the numbers of passengers, but you look at the yield, which is the revenue that the flight generates. And again, we're completely happy with what we're seeing. It's entirely on point.
Okay, that's good news. Regarding, you mentioned one of the reasons for the flight to Panama is the amount of cargo that we might be able to bring in. Are there any considerations towards if there isn't a big uptake on passenger load, perhaps having cargo-only flights? Is that something that's in your wheelhouse at all?
I haven't had any discussions about that, but as you heard the CEO highlight that this new fleet operates at 50% more in capacity than the past one. I think what we will obviously do is analyze the interactions with the market. And if that becomes feasible and profitable, of course, I think the board would be minded to examine any possibilities to increase the profits for the company. And that's what they're obligated to do. So if that becomes an option, then yes, we'll support it. Once it makes money, once it makes sense, once we get tourism, our profits from trade, yes, of course we would do that.
Just to follow up on that, Minister, just so you're aware, part of the analysis that we did, really the passenger load is what is driving the relaunch, not just the cargo capacity. We kind of see the cargo capacity as a bonus, But our all of the data that we have and the modeling that we have from the various different groups that we use to provide this information has supported a very strong passenger segment for us. So the launch is based on the numbers for passengers, with cargo being a bonus for us on that.
Okay, thank you.
Important point. Thank you.
My final question on this subject, the reduction of the flights to Havana, can you give us details of that? How many times a week are we going to be flying now?
We, for many years, had offered 2 flights per week. This is to support weekend travel. That is going to remain intact. Depending on the demand, we've often had a midweek service as well. Quite recently, however, we've been having 5 frequencies a week to Miami because there was very strong demand for those 5 frequencies. That demand has now tapered off, so we're reverting back to 2 frequencies a week. So we're basically going from 5 to 2. We have already reduced it from 5 to 4, and we're now in the process of going down.
Thank you. Moving on to the port issue that you covered earlier. Obviously, the major issue that we had with the cruise berthing, the objections to that was putting in a physical dock there. Are there, as part of the outline business case, is that going to be a consideration to put in an actual physical dock for the cargo port?
Well, whatever the report comes back with is what we will consider. The most important thing here is food security for the country. We got to be able to feed our people. Unfortunately, we don't have a large enough agriculture component here, and this is a national issue. Hence the reason I thought it was important to get ahead of this and make people understand the importance of this. So, I mean, we have the strategic outline case, which has made some suggestions and options of expansion to the current port. It has suggested considerations of having to expand out in the water, not only the holding location, but it's also made some suggestions of going to a brand new location. At this particular point, I think it's important that we wait for the other report, the outline business case, to see what those recommendations are. And one of the recommendations could be do nothing, one that I do not support, because I don't want to be the minister who was in charge of this thing, recognize the problem that's coming for our people and did nothing. I know this is going to be a very sensitive topic, but the right thing to do is talk about it now so we understand this is no longer about cruise passengers. This is now about being able to feed our children and ourselves and our people. So hence the reason I want to get ahead of it. All the media will have an opportunity to see the report, what it suggests, what it has considered. The public will be able to do that when we go into the outline business case. You will hear and see what the consultants are taking into consideration. They will hear from the public, will have an opportunity to put their opinions out there, and we all factor in it together as a country and decide how we move forward. I think it's being proactive to not have this pending problem come and we don't plan for it from now, because any kind of changes in that respect takes a long time. It doesn't happen within 1 year. It may take 10 years to get something done.
When will the outline business case be available, do you know?
I'm hoping that maybe by as early as tomorrow morning that it should be up on the website. Sorry, I thought you said a strategic outline case, the business case.
Business outline, yeah.
I can't say that yet. It's because it's the port that has to do it. They're currently in the process of hiring a project manager who will do the RFP and then send it out to bid. So I would ask that, I'm quite sure the chairman and the port director can happily give you a timeline of how soon they would plan to do that. I've done my part as the minister to bring it to cabinet. The cabinet has approved it, and they're now on to the next stages. But I would definitely keep on them to keep a timeline, because we need to get this ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. Who are the consultants who are working on it?
They haven't been selected yet.
Oh, they have not? No. Okay. So this is a strategic business case that's been drawn up that just
Correct.
gives the bare bones and
Correct.
what we're looking for, basically.
Correct.
Right, gotcha. Okay. Finally, just one question regarding the Miss Cayman issue. You mentioned the new rules from the Miss Universe big organisation. What are they?
That's the thing. We don't know.
If you don't know, why are you saying we're possibly pulling out from being their franchise holder? If we don't know what the rules are yet.
Well, the pulling out or potentially considering a pullout wasn't based only on changes that we are not aware of. I'm just only going based on rumblings that I've heard within the industry of changes are coming. So, for example, just recently we got an email just out of the blue from their organization saying, we're now switching to a bid process, and you have 7 days to bid on the franchise. And I was caught off guard, but I was like, hold on. For one, there was an established price. We are a franchise holder. We just have the option to renew, and just with a very short window, we were notified that we have to put a bid in without no opportunity to do proper analysis. It's situations like that gives reason for concern. Also situations like what we unfortunately had to go through with the former Miss Cayman, Miss Tiffany, whereby we couldn't make decisions on behalf of the country of what we wanted to do because the franchise agreement obligated us to ask them first. And if they said no, we couldn't do anything. So these factors plus potential changes that we're unaware of. It's like saying, changes are coming, I want you to sign an agreement, and I don't know what they are. All of these things is what myself and my colleagues will have to decide whether we go forward. And as I said in my statement, maybe we can get the same benefit of this franchise if we just allow private sector to do it. I suspect there will be some robust discussion about this because we have been attached to this pageant for quite some time. But if we continue to move forward, there's going to have to be some drastic changes on how we approach the Miss Cayman universe and our relationship with the franchise.
In this instance, did the government and the Miss Cayman committee have to go to the Miss Universe Federation, I'm not sure what it's called, to get permission to remove Miss Connolly from
Correct.
the position? So we have to get formal permission from them to do
Correct.
so. Okay.
That's how difficult things have been over the last few months. And I know that the public has been really annoyed, but I wasn't able to comment on it because of the legality. And that's one of the primary things that I'm concerned about, that if we're stronghold that tightly on making a call in the best interest of our brand called Cayman, that we got to be able to have the freedom to make a call if we have to. And that's what happened. And I'm just hoping that we can move forward because the franchise itself and the good committee members who've worked so hard over the years and future women who may want to be involved in this, sadly may be tainted now of this organization, and that has to change altogether. And I intend to change it. I'm glad we're all past this step. Now it's about improving the way forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norma. I do have a couple of questions that have come in from the public. Questions for Mr. Fabian first. How soon will persons be able to book their flights to Panama? And not sure, you mentioned how long the flight will be from Grand Cayman.
The flight will be 1 hour and 50 minutes, basically both directions. And we plan to have tickets on sale before the end of the month, so within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. This is another question to Cayman Airways, unrelated subject, however. There's been some question about recent raises with staff at Cayman Airways. Some people saying that they got like very low raises, like $40 raise. I don't know if the minister or somebody from Cayman Airways can address that.
Donna, thank you for the question. I unfortunately was hoping to have this area resolved without it having to be in the public domain, but what has transpired is that there was a POX evaluation to get the employees in line with the Public Authorities Act. That analysis, in my humble opinion, I want to be very careful because it's not my place to dictate what the salaries are, but the process has to be examined, in my humble opinion, as minister, to surely reflect the hard work of each employee at Cayman Airways. A POX evaluation was done before my tenure, an agreement on what job description and exactly what line of salary they were supposed to get. I think since then, we've seen the value of this stakeholder and this company to this country since the pandemic. The fact that cabin crew and pilots expose their lives to make sure there's connectivity to the rest of the world, for us to trade, to import goods, import medicine, was not factored in that POX analysis and what their pay scale is. And with that being said, I've asked the board to see whether there needs to be a reevaluation of particularly some of these posts where members got like a $40 increase, which again, I don't have the authority to dictate it, but I'm very disappointed in it. I think the Cayman Airways employees deserve so much more than, and not all cases. There's some cases that the POX evaluation did justify what I believe is a decent increase, but there's many other areas that fell short of it. And I think there needs to be a review of their job descriptions and their exposures, because those were done before COVID, and the realities of how important those staff and employees of Cayman Airways is to us. So I've asked the committee to look at that, and I think maybe it'd be best if Chris, the deputy chairman, can give us an update on where that is, because it is something that, as minister, if I need to find the money to give to Cayman Airways, if they can get the evaluations different, I will find it, because Cayman Airways staff is very important to this country and important to me as minister.
When you mentioned POX, one second, Mr. Bergstrom, could you explain to the listening and viewing public what POX is? You said POX. It's an acronym, I know, but you could just...
POX is the agency within the civil service that helps overview the salary bands that would obligate a government-owned company or a statutory authority to be in line with the civil service salary scale, which is what is mandated by the Public Authorities Act for Cayman Airways, and we're trying to get them in line, not only for salaries, but for benefits. And I think this is a great opportunity for me to say this too, which is obviously the budget that we have now is a budget that reflects a COVID situation. It was my hope or my plan to have not only the salaries addressed, but also the benefits with respect to pension and health resolved in the next budget. So my team and I are already starting to work within the ministry to make sure that the monies are available to Cayman Airways to be able to pay the staff for their health and pension benefits to be in line with the civil service. I wish I could do it earlier. Trust me, I wish I could. But we have to be financially responsible with the budget that we currently have, because it was not planned for. So we're trying our best. I'll not say that, but we're going to address it soon. But for the salary part, which we've already given the commitment to, I think that part falls short of what I think they're deserving. So I'll allow the deputy chair to.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. And Donna, again, thanks for the question. It's something that we've been working, the board of directors has taken a keen interest in this. We've been working extremely hard with the management team, and we've met with some of our employee groups that have been most affected by this. The concern is that one, as the minister said, when this process was carried out, it is possible that there were some things that were not taken into consideration. So we are trying to reevaluate that. That first of all, that the process was correct. The second thing is to make sure that we are knowing what these positions are paid within the industry. What is the norm? What is fair and what's not? So we've been very honest with our employee groups who have been affected with that, and we're working through this process. I don't want to get into too many details because we actually don't have the answers quite yet. But the management team who, on top of the day-to-day operation, this is a massive undertaking when you have the amount of employees that we have to actually sit and look at almost every single position and every post in the company and almost do a reevaluation of that. So that process is underway. We are committed to our employees, and we don't want them to feel undervalued. And unfortunately, that is the case. They some of them felt really undervalued, and that's not what the intent was. So I will say this on the other side is that Cayman Airways has always been an expense item for the government. We all understand what we are about and what we do. However, it's very important that we find the good news, like we're here today talking about launching new routes. As a board, we're also tasked with trying to find new revenue measures. With new revenue and improvements to the bottom line, we have a little more autonomy with the salaries and being able to spend some more than simply going to the government and saying, this is going to be another expense item. So we try to strike a balance there. We don't want to be just an expense item for the government. We want to be a contributor, and so that goes hand in hand with the decisions that we make.
Okay, thank you very much for answers to those questions from the public. Any final words from the panelists?
Any members before I close out? No? Once again, I would like to offer my thanks and appreciation to the leadership of Cayman Airways for their hard work and support in respect to this new Panama City service and their running of the company. I truly appreciate them more than you know. I'd also like to encourage the public to look out for the cargo port SOC, which is the Strategic Outline Case, which will be published on the Ministry and the Port Authority website this week, hopefully by tomorrow. In addition, once the consultants have been identified to draft the outline business case, the public consultation process will be taking place. I want to say thank you so much for joining me here today. May God bless you and your family and the Cayman Islands.
Thank you very much, Minister Bryan, and thank you to the public and the media, and of course, all of our panelists for today. Thank you to the organizing teams for today's press briefing from the Ministry of Tourism and Transport, as well as Cayman Airways. I'm Donna Bush, wishing you a wonderful day.